My name is Nicola Harris. I'm the Manager for Professional Practice at Speech Pathology Australia, and I'm welcoming Anna Pannuzzo, the Director of WorkPlacePLUS. Thanks, Anna, for coming and speaking. What I'd love to talk to you about now is the differences between an employee arrangement, a contractor arrangement, and a casual arrangement when someone is starting work. So if you could go through what the differences between all of those, that would be great.
Thanks, Nicola. Thank you. Okay, there are differences. So I'll pick up an employee first of all. An employee can be full-time, part-time or casual. So a full-time and part-time employee initially would have a position description and be responsible to the employer based on their hours. Mm-hmm. And fully they would be directed and guided, supervised from the employer from day one. Part-time means that they've reduced hours, so anyone that's less than 38 hours is seen as part-time under the legislation of Fair Work. Right. A casual is someone who is an employee who is irregular and ad hoc. So they'd be coming in based on backfilling, needing to be engaged for a project on minimum hours. Mm-hmm. A casual is someone who receives a loading, so that they still are seen as an employee, but they receive a 25% loading based on the fact that they're not going to get any sick leave or annual leave. And remembering that they are ad hoc and irregular, so they may be engaged once every 3 months or every 6 months. And this is the danger for employers, that they don't start having casuals who are regular and systematic mm-hmm. for a period of 12 months. And if they are, they need to consider whether the employment or relationship should be permanent part-time or permanent full-time.
Right.
The other thing on casuals I just want to clarify and say is that when they're engaged, they have to be engaged as a minimum for 3 hours under the Health Professional Support Services Award. And that means not 3 hours over a week, 3 hours at each stint. So each time they're engaged and called in to see a client, even if they've not been provided for 3 hours work, they've got to be paid for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So I thought that's important because a lot of employers forget that, and that's part of the minimum rates of the award. So whether you're under enterprise bargaining agreement or just applying the award, you still have that 3 hour minimum engagement. Right. As an independent contractor, this is where it becomes really different. So as an independent contractor, it is someone who is running their own business. Mm-hmm. They either have an ABN or they've a company. They are independent, generally independent, and that they supervise and mentor themselves. They come in, provide services for your clients and go out. Right. They are not being directed or monitored or mentored or trained like employees. So there is a number of definitions that are on the ATO, Australian Tax Office, the superannuation guarantee, work cover, yep. That when you look at those definitions, is you need to look at them all together when you're looking at an independent contractor's agreement. Mm-hmm. So my advice again is when you're looking at an independent contractor's arrangement, that you consider calling and getting some advice from myself or anyone else as to whether they are genuinely an independent contractor. The important thing again with an independent contractor is that if they're working for a 12-month period and they are working for you full-time, mm-hmm. the question I'll have is, are they independent? Are they running their own business? And if their income is 80% is from the one source, right. They may be seen as an employee. So always checking those things. The other thing is an independent contractor, they need to look after their own super, their own tax, their own insurance. Again, reminding people that they are independent.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very important to make those distinctions. We have more and more speech pathologists coming to work in private practices, and I know that there are contractor arrangements happening in those spaces. What would you say to someone who's starting out as a speech pathologist about working as a contractor?
For a graduate, it's not my advice. Mm-hmm. My advice would be that they would be best placed either getting a permanent part-time role or full-time role as an employee or a casual in the first instance. how can you establish that you're running your own business as a speech pathologist who has graduated, who hasn't really got enough work experience or life experience to be running a business? So it's not my advice, but I do know it's happening. I'd advise people to check that they're ready to be able to be seen as an independent contractor and running their own business.
And perhaps have that conversation
Yes.
with the business owner as well.
Correct.
Fantastic. Yes. Another question around people working is that if they're working full time, they may, or even part time, they'll have things like superannuation. They all have sick leave and annual leave for holidays and things. Are there other types of things that might be part of their contract or working arrangements that they can arrange above and beyond those things?
Yes, there are. Under the National Employment Standards, there's just the minimum and the award, which is the 20 days annual leave, the 10 days sick leave, some compassionate leave, and personal leave. Mm-hmm. But in terms of other opportunities, there is, because a lot of speech pathologists have, in a private practice, they have the school holiday periods off. People can apply for 4852, which is purchasing extra leave to have more annual leave.
Right.
There's also flexible work arrangements where you may work 3 or 4 days a week and to do other commitments. Mm-hmm. There's a number of different arrangements you can apply with the employer, but again, look at how what kind of business case you want to put up to the employer, and the employer will be looking at how does this meet our operational requirements, how does it meet our service provision. But there are lots of options that you can consider, and they are also available under Fair Work. There is I've got to remember, there is something on Fair Work that provides flexible work arrangements, right, yeah. And that's available on the website, and you can look at them and consider those. But people can also ring us.
Fantastic. And as part of those flexible arrangements, can you work longer days? Is that?
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. But again, you've got to be careful how you the award will be an issue there. Right. Yeah. So the normal working span of hours of an award is between 6 to 6 or 7 to 7, depending on the practice. Mm-hmm. If you're working more than 38 hours a week, you would then be eligible for penalty rates, which is overtime pay. Right, okay. If you're working longer than the span of hours, again, overtime rates. But if you're working within those span of hours, 6 to 6 or 7 to 7, that's fine. But you've got to look at, is it the longer day or is it the longer week? My general advice is that if people are working beyond 7 p.m. Mm-hmm. of an evening, that's when overtime kicks in, right, or penalty rates after that. Yeah. Before that, no, that doesn't. Doesn't.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for outlining all of that. I think it's a good opportunity to remind members of Speech Pathology Australia that they can always talk to Anna or one of her colleagues at WorkPlacePLUS if they've got any questions around the differences between employees and contractors and what should be discussed as part of those working arrangements. So thanks for outlining that today.
Thank you.